helpful to kind of go over how things are hooked up with this next assignment, where you're actually wanting to look at creating a node backend and a React front end. And so this first activity has you creating a help ticket type thing by first creating a backend for it and then creating a front end. So if you go to lesson 2 here, that's what I'd like to kind of make sure we kind of know what's going on with. So I'm not going to go into the details. You can go ahead and follow along with creating your front end and back end. Let's start though with running your back end and testing it. Okay, so if we are here on our back end, and I'm now going to go to my node and lesson 2. Here's my back end, and I can then run node ticket.js, and that will go ahead and start. It would start if I wasn't already running in another window. So good debugging tip. If you ever get this error that says adder in use, it means someone else is already listening on port 3000. So we're going to have our server running on port 3000. And so in this case, I can hit a Control-C here to stop that one. And then if I wanted to, I can go ahead and run node here. Now he's going to be listening on port 3000. And if we wanted to, we could go ahead and take a look at that back end. And basically, I have put in console.logs so that you can tell which route you're going to, /API/tickets. And we have a get, a post, a delete, and all in there on that particular route. Okay, so anytime we see this in the URL on port 3000, then we're going to execute the code inside of here. Okay, so let's see. I just screwed things up. Quick, get out of here before you do damage. Okay, so now let's now that he's there, let's see how we can test it. Okay, and we talked a little bit about that. You can test with curl. In this case, we can use curl. It's going to say define this data and then use the post route with this route, the post verb with this route to actually save it away. So if I was going to take that, I could say, let me go ahead and maybe open up another, well, here's another terminal that's sitting there. So I can go ahead and do the curl. And what that should do is go ahead and contact okay, I'm all screwed up here. So here's that thing. Grab another terminal. Now I got the $sign on the front there. Control-A takes you to the beginning of the line, by the way. And let's get rid of that $sign. And so now you'll notice that it called our post route. So if we look here, we got the debug statement, the console.log saying I'm in the post. And then post returned this, which had the ID for that particular one, that particular problem ticket. And so if I wanted to, I could do another curl here with another ticket, and When I run that, it should go ahead and insert another thing. Notice it gave it another different ID, because here in my post, I always increment the ID. ID is a global variable, so every ticket will get a unique ID. And he's just pushing that onto this tickets array. Okay, so curl is one way that you can test your route. Now, hopefully you have, if you go to your EC2 instances, you should be able to see that, by the way, I'm going to encourage everybody to move from a T2 micro to a T through small instance. People were having trouble with it running out of memory or CPU on the T2 micro. I sent an email to everybody on how to do that, but let me know if you need some more help. Anyway, if we look at this, we will see that I have port 80 open, port 3000 is open, that's the one where I'm running. So I should be able to use HTTP to get to port 3000. So let's go ahead and bring up, in this case, here is my, my instance. I can put in port 3000, and then we set it /API/tickets, and I should be able to see those tickets that I just put in. Okay, so that's probably the next step. This verifies that you're able to get through your firewall and everything to get to port 3000. Okay, so the next thing I might want to do is test to see if my front end is working. Okay, so now we've got my back end working here. I've run node tickets.js, so backend is running. In another window, I want to, okay, here's the guy who's actually running. In another window, maybe this one, where am I? I can go to the front end, and I can, hopefully you've gotten that all entered into, so I can do npm start. What that will do is it's going to actually start up the React server, and it will then be serving things on port 8080, okay? So if I wanted to, I should be able to go to that port where I was checking my backend. I should now also be able to go to port 8080. Again, we got to make sure that we're running HTTP here, not HTTPS. And that should give me my front end. Okay, so it's going to let me submit tickets. Notice it already saw those two that I submitted with curl, but I can create some more like foo and create that, and it should go ahead and display my tickets and allow me to create new ones. Okay, so if I wanted to, I should be able to, I guess I could go ahead and curl. Let's create another terminal here. I could go ahead and curl this particular URL to see if my front end is working, and it would go ahead and show me all that stuff that was being displayed in the in the React server. Okay, so here's my React app, and there's my div and everything else that I need. Okay, so a bunch of ways of testing things. The next piece that I kind of wanted to make sure you guys are familiar with is once you get everything working, as we have here, with running my application on port 80, then I might want to go ahead and do a npm run build, which will create something that Caddy, a React code that Caddy can serve. And then I want to go ahead and continue running my server on the back end. In order to make this work, I will need to go ahead and go into my Caddy file and set up a reverse pop proxy. And what this does is it says anytime you see something with a path with /app star on it, I want you to actually go to the localhost on port 3000, send whatever you get through there back. Okay, so if I was to look at this, I have this set up, so I'd go ahead and edit this file, and then I'd go ahead and do the let's see, what's the systemctl restart Caddy after I got through editing it. And then I can go ahead and test in another way. So now I know that if I'm going to go to this address here, this is the address I would go to through HTTP. What I want to be able to do is go through HTTPS to get to that back end. So let's see, let me create a new tab here. And I'm going to go to this HTTPS that/API/tickets. And let's see what happens. So now at this point, notice I went to the HTTPS version. My backend is running on HTTP on port 3000. However, because I put in the API/tickets here, the Caddy web server will take that with HTTPS, go to port 3000, and return all this stuff that came out of my HTTP port 3000 and send it back through HTTPS. So that's kind of all the things you need to do to go ahead and test things out. And I would make sure that you can do all of those things well before you start worrying about changing other stuff. Again, test with Caddy on your back end. You can then test with your URL, test your back end with HTTP. You can change your Caddy file, test with HTTPS, and then you can also test by running your application and seeing if it works. So you should be able to put new things in here, and you should be able to see them, be able to submit them and delete them in order to make this work. So this is kind of a full stack application. A couple of other notes. In this Git repository for lesson 2, I also provided you with the backend completed tickets.js in case you get screwed up someplace along the way. And on the front end, I also provided you with the files that were changed there, including source/app.js. So go ahead and go through the tutorial, but if you get stuck, you can look at what it's supposed to look like and then do a lot of testing to make sure this works. By the way, these are pretty important things. Once you get this working, we're going to have you build a to-do list. And then the shopping cart is you're going to be basically doing this on your own. So all we're going to do is just give you the specification and you build this full stack application. So make sure you're understanding what's going on in these two activities, which will be more tutorial in nature, so that you can build this shopping cart on your own. Okay? And hopefully this is helpful, gives you a few things to think about and knowing how to test.